You're listening to
and such a short amount of time to do it in.
a Mamamia podcast.
Hi there and welcome to Cancelled, a podcast from Mamamia about who's in, who's out and who actually cares. I'm Claire Stephens, I'm an editor and a writer. I'm Jessie Stephens, I'm an author and a writer at Mamamia, and most importantly, I am your twin sister. You sure are. And Jess, before we get started, I did want to fully disclose that I got cancelled the other week.
What for?
So I think you're aware that a lot of Australians are either in lockdown right now, have been in lockdown, are scared of going into lockdown. Everybody's very sensitive and because we're going through this horrible time.
Okay, you're already blaming the people for your cancellation. But what did you do?
So one night.
Wait, I think I remember this.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
So it gets to like 7 o'clock one night and I haven't been outside all day because, let's be real, that's how lockdown goes. But I was like, no, I've got one state mandated walk and I'll be taking it. So I go out onto the street and I start walking and I notice that it's very eerie, it's very dark. It looks like someone's going to get murdered. Mm-hmm. So I take a photo of the street and I post it on my Instagram story and I said, wouldn't mind getting kidnapped. At least it would give me something to do.
Okay.
The people were really mad.
What did they say?
I got a lot of DMs saying, I quite liked you, but now I'll be unfollowing. And people...
Did you delete it?
No, I didn't.
I don't think you did, which really surprised me because I saw it and went, ha, Claire with her kidnapping jokes. And the thing is, I didn't know that the kidnapped were a minority group that we had to be careful about. Well, and I did wonder if any of those people that snuck into your DMs had been personally kidnapped or if their outrage was on behalf of those who potentially have been kidnapped, may one day be kidnapped.
Once I thought about it, I was like, I guess violence against women is a sensitive topic and it's something I am personally very passionate about. This wasn't about that.
Yes.
This was about boredom in lockdown and the lengths I would go to for something that isn't my street.
Potential new relationship, Claire, with a kidnapper because you have been just with you and your partner and it's boring. So this is the kind of cancellations we'll be talking about on this podcast.
I think I do want to just say, if you really don't find that joke funny, I was going to say this probably isn't the podcast for you.
Can you not count out our audience before we've even properly begun, please? You are not advertising this very well. Claire, what I want you to do to start is, what is this show about?
So Cancelled is about who got cancelled and for why.
Right.
And so it really looks at the stories of celebrity cancellations as almost an historical artifact. But what we're doing is we're operating like a really ineffective and completely unhelpful court of law. So I will be presenting the evidence. You are open questions and comments. Just like
query,
a
even.
Lawyer might say, I object, you don't object, you just have a comment.
Yep.
And that's fine. And then at the end, we will be doing some sentencing. We'll be looking at charges. What are they guilty of? And what should their punishment be?
Yes.
None of it will happen.
So essentially, I think you should think of us as your two mates who spend way too much time on the internet, mostly because we absolutely do spend way too much time on the internet. And how this is going to go is, Claire, you're the one who knows about the celebrities and you're going to retell the story, as you said, like a Shakespearean tragedy. These are the modern day Shakespearean tragedies, perhaps sadder. Okay, because there are endorsement deals in these stories and there weren't in Shakespearean times. And you're going to look at what happens when the world turns on a celebrity. You're going to go right back to the beginning, tell the story from both sides. Because sometimes I'll be off, I'll go and do a wee, right? This is just in my day-to-day life. I'll go clean a window. I'll come back, Matt Damon's been cancelled. What? And I pick up my phone, I say, Claire, what's the man done?
And I say, don't you worry.
I'm across it.
And
that is what your role is. And before we start, just a quick note on the cancel culture of which we speak. Does it even exist? Well, that is a subject I am sure we will explore at length.
But when we are talking about being cancelled, Claire, what do we mean? So, I mean, look, the term cancelled is very hotly contested. Some people don't like to use it, but the reason we're using it is because we think everybody really knows what we're talking about when we say cancelled. What we mean is that person does thing. Thing gets judged to be wrong by, I don't know, the culture, the internet, same thing.
Yes.
Is there a difference? I don't think so. Pile-on ensues. Person might lose career opportunities. They might lose a platform. They may lose nothing.
No.
But there's a pile-on. The person apologises, but that apology is then dissected.
Pile-on continues. Yes.
And then, I don't know, people sort of forget, but then you turn on the television and you see someone's face and you go, isn't that person who did that thing? And I think that that's really what cancellation is.
Yes. Murky.
Murky, and that constant thing in the back of your mind that makes you think, is that one of those people that should be cancelled? And what's interesting is sometimes they're not, they haven't done anything wrong, they just look like somebody who did something wrong.
Who got cancelled.
Yeah.
I have that often. And who are we talking about today?
Jess, today it is all about Justin Timberlake.
When things got hard, Justin Timberlake still saw his career skyrocket. But the women who went through the same public breakup, the same Super Bowl mishap, saw their careers stall. It is well over a decade later. But Timberlake is saying he is sorry for his part and that he failed.
Jessie, I'm going to tell you the story of Justin. Questions or comments are welcome, as always.
Okay, just a quick comment. Did you know that Justin Timberlake's middle name is Randall?
No, and now I do.
Okay.
You did a Google.
I just wanted that on the record.
Okay. So, Jessie, we're going to explore this story in 4 parts, which are not chronological because these things really are. Part 1, Britney Spears. Part B, Janet Jackson.
Part C, F.
Part C, F, Kylie Minogue. And part 4,
But like with those 3 little I's.
and part 4, B, bracket, I, cheating on his wife, who happens to be Jessica Biel.
The surprise of the year for me is the mention of Kylie Minogue.
I know.
I don't know where Australia came into this, but I love it.
Surprise and delight. So before we get started, tell me, when you think of Justin Timberlake, what's the song?
Oh,
What's the song?
What goes around comes back around.
Okay, I've got Cry Me a River.
Okay, that. Can I also tell you, Claire, what I think of when I think of Justin Timberlake?
Yes.
To me, he will always be Sean Parker from The Social Network.
Obviously.
Okay, so every time Sean Parker is brought up, which often he is in popular culture because he created the original, like, Facebook?
No, music thing.
Oh, yeah, like a Musically thing. Sean Parker created that. And every time he's brought up, I'm like, oh, just Justin Timberlake being a tech entrepreneur in San Fran. Like, that's just how I imagine him. And remember, the Winklevoss twins are Army freaking Hammer.
That movie
full of cancellations.
And I'm pretty sure the main guy's done some dodgy stuff too.
He's
but
just
anyway,
a dodgy guy.
we need to do a whole episode on The Social Network. But anyway, like all important stories, this story starts with Britney Spears.
Yeah.
So for 13 years, she's been under what's known as a conservatorship. She was put under this conservatorship in 2008 after her very public breakdown. From there, her father, Jamie Spears, was given the legal right to oversee and make decisions regarding her finances and her health and her business deals and personal
Put a
life.
contraception up her clacker.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jessie.
But he did.
He did. Very inappropriate. So, since 2009, actually, fans have argued that she doesn't need a conservatorship. And then in February 2021, the New York Times released a documentary framing Britney Spears about the Free Britney movement that says, actually, this is really screwed up. Now, a bit of a casualty of this was JT. So what the documentary also pointed to was the way the media and the public have treated Spears and how they contributed to and exacerbated her mental health struggles. And one individual that really was central was a little bit Justin Timberlake. So he dated Britney Spears between 1999 and 2002. You probably remember the denim?
Is that why they got cancelled?
No!
The denim was just appalling.
No, to me, when people are like, oh, they went out, I'm like, yeah, there's that one photo of them and they're wearing head-to-toe denim.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're wearing denim shoes. Like, it's only denim. So I
think he's wearing a denim hat.
It was really a moment. So there is speculation that they broke up because Britney Spears was unfaithful. And Timberlake did fuel that a little bit with Cry Me a River.
Yeah.
Can you remember the film clip?
Yeah, and it's him crying, and it's a pathetic fallacy is what we would call it in Year 12 English. But the rain is like the teardrops, and it's going down over his glass home.
I think it's her home.
It's her home, and
That
he's
looking
lurking.
He's lurking.
Because she's cheating.
Yeah.
In the shower. I think he's just watching a woman in the shower that looks like Britney Spears.
Who did
But it was
cheat.
understood that she cheated. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that's like on the record she cheated.
She hasn't admitted to it, but it's one
She
of
hasn't
those
denied
rumors
it.
that no one's denied.
No.
So there's that video, and it's sort of a bit of a revenge fantasy that he's like outside and then he films like a sex tape. Anyway, it's weird, but clearly it was about Britney Spears. Nobody is denying that. So that whole album was a bit about exposing Britney Spears for Justin Timberlake's personal gain, let's say.
To which there was a lot of gain.
A lot of gain, because it did really
That
well.
album, I swear, was like one of the best-selling albums ever in history. But wasn't he like 8? Like he was very young.
He was early 20s.
He was young.
He was young. So then in 2002, he did an interview with Barbara Walters, and he denies that the songs on his album were about Britney.
Justin, everybody has asked you what went wrong. As much as you can without my asking a dozen questions, because maybe you can just say it once and for all, and then the rest of us will never ask another question.
I don't think that'll be the case, but,
Okay.
I remember when we decided that we were going to go our separate ways.
Yeah.
We sat down, and I said to her, if there's ever a moment where you ever need me, you can rest assured that I will be there, because I love you as a person, and I will always love you. But I also said, look, no matter what we say at this point, people are going to speculate things, and I could really get myself in a horrible position if I was to say something and somebody misinterpret it, because that happens all the time. I think that it's just a situation of, it's just young love. It's a very intense relationship, that's for sure. So you had your chance to be my lover.
Although Justin says that all the lyrics on his new CD come from his own experience, he denies that any were written specifically for Britney.
And tell her she better just come get you.
Yet when we sat down at the piano and asked him to play something from Justified, he chose instead to play a song that nobody has ever heard before. Interesting lyrics.
Thought our love was so strong. I guess I was dead wrong. But to look at it positively, hey girl, at least you gave me another song about a horrible
And it's not a release
The
song.
breakup with
It's a
Britney has
hurt.
been
You're a
devastating
horrible
for
woman.
Justin.
Does he name check Britney Spears in the Horrible Woman song?
No.
So it could have been about any horrible woman.
But that had really been his only relationship. So he's accused of generally lacking compassion for Britney Spears after their breakup.
Who cheated on him?
Okay. But yes, but anyway, he's accused of lacking compassion. So, for example, it was known that Britney Spears wanted to remain a virgin until marriage, very much part of her identity. Remember that was
That's
thing?
a problem that was known. I'll flag that.
I know. And that was a bit of a vibe. Like, I think
Jessica
Simpson, there was a whole thing that everybody wanted to be a virgin.
They wore that proudly.
Yeah, and...
Which, like, all power to you, but it's just we probably didn't have to know that.
No, like, please, go for it. But in a radio interview in 2002, Justin Timberlake was asked whether he effed Britney. That was their wording.
Cute.
And there's silence, and he says, okay, yeah, I did it.
Okay.
And he then kind of tries to say some other stuff, but it's cut off, and we don't really know what was said.
Okay, he was cornered.
In subsequent interviews, he burst out with laughter when he was asked if Britney had kept her promise to wait until marriage, which I think suggests that she didn't. And
Or maybe he was just being really respectful and joyful about how much she did.
And then before confirming that he'd had oral intercourse with her, and he said about that, I did it, I'm dirty.
You shouldn't
Come
use
on,
the term
mate.
oral intercourse
So
ever.
then something I think is actually worse is that in 2002, he also said if she had a clue, she wouldn't have made Crossroads.
That was the best film of the early 2000s.
That's not, I just don't think that's his place to make that
Just
comment.
going to Crossroads, and I know this isn't on Justin Timberlake's cancellation, although perhaps adjacently. Was she trying to find her mother? Was that the premise?
I think so.
There was a road trip, and she was like, Dad.
We'll rewatch it. We'll rewatch it.
Because it actually had the same premise as Glitter with Mariah Carey, who was also trying to find her mother at the same time. But
Every
continue.
pop star had the same movie. Okay. So when Britney Spears performed with Madonna at the 2003 VMAs, remember they kissed?
Yeah.
And Justin said after that, it's not that I was upset with it, I just wasn't impressed.
Why did he have an opinion on it?
I think that's most people's question about Justin Timberlake in general. Stop talking, stop weighing in, stop having an opinion.
Okay, but maybe devil's advocate, people won't stop asking him about Britney, so he's got to think of new opinions.
Exactly. In 2008, Justin then inducted Madonna into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he said, the world has always been full of Madonna wannabes. I might have even dated a couple.
Oh.
It's rude because we know who he's talking about, and it wasn't great timing because that was the year that Britney wasn't doing that well.
Oh, so kick her while she's down.
Exactly. So now, after Framing Britney Spears has come out, basically what's interesting about Justin Timberlake is he hasn't done anything new.
He's a white man who falls upwards.
No, he's been falling upwards for 20 years. He hasn't done anything new. But Framing Britney Spears / the last few years have meant he's getting a reassessment is what's happening. There's a reassessment of Justin Timberlake, and people are looking at him through a really different lens. I'm now going to layer what we've just heard, Justin Timberlake being a bit of a dick to Britney. I'm going to layer that with some Janet.
Okay, this is paragraph 2 of your essay.
Yeah. It's the 1st of February, 2004, and everything has been planned for the Super Bowl halftime show.
I know what happens.
Yeah.
I know what happens.
So there's 150 million people watching. That's a lot. So there were actually quite a few people performing, but there's one moment that we all know. So
just to set the scene quickly, because Janet Jackson had that song, It's All For You.
If you really want it. But that's not what this is about.
No, but we made up a dance to it as kids.
We did. Okay.
Okay, just setting the scene. Move
separate.
on. Okay.
I think what that does attest to, no, that is relevant.
It is.
Because it attests to her star power at that time. She was huge.
Prevalence.
I had the album. It was illegal because it was rated R. And I don't know how we got it. Anyway, she was a big star. She's on stage with Justin Timberlake. And they are doing the bit that's like dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun,
oh, that bit.
Yeah.
Senorita?
Anyway, you're so dumb. And then he goes, I'm going to get your neck up at the end of this song. And he does that. And he gets his hand and he puts it on her boob where he was meant to rip off a layer of fabric and it was meant to be her red bra. Wardrobe malfunction. We get the nip.
There are children watching.
There are children watching. There are so many families watching.
A woman with a
Advertisers.
bare nipple.
A bare nip? What are we meant to do about that?
I don't know.
I mean, we just watched the
A whole
Olympics and
generation-
saw a lot of divers and
No,
swimmers with nips.
whole
But anyway,
generation traumatised.
my thing here has always been that I always thought this was a publicity stunt. I thought, no, this was not an accident. 150 million people watching. You don't have a costume designer have a bad day.
At the same time, they say, I'm going to get you naked by the end of
End
this
of the
song.
song,
Like,
boom, oh, nipple.
it was definitely planned, and then they did it. They got in a lot of trouble, and they were like, let's just play the accident card and pretend it didn't happen because that's so embarrassing.
Yeah. Because everyone was so,
Mad about it.
offended. So 24 hours after that halftime performance, Jackson was forced to issue a public apology, which then absolved all the media partners and Timberlake of any responsibility. So Timberlake then joked about the incident during an interview the next day and said, hey man, we love giving you all something to talk about. So at the one time we've got Jackson apologising and taking the fall and we've got Justin Timberlake joking about it.
Okay, so it brings us back to the question, is Justin Timberlake a bad person or just a white man?
I know. Because he's like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
I know. I just exposed somebody's boob. It's fine. So Jackson was then disinvited from attending the Grammys the following weekend, which, who is making these decisions? And why is nobody interrogating them? But anyway, she was blacklisted from MTV and CBS Radio, and she was forced to resign from a film. She was never invited to perform at the Super Bowl again. Then there was a massive decline in sales for all her albums, and she departed Virgin Records and released one album with another record company, and then, her career.
So it destroyed her.
It destroyed her. So meanwhile, Timberlake Suffered little to no consequences. Justin falling up with Timberlake. He went on to release singles and albums. He collaborated with some of the biggest stars on the planet, and he just had continued success. He was in a bunch of movies. Yeah. Bad Teacher. So, then in 2006, 2 years after Nipplegate, Janet Jackson sat down with Oprah and she said she was going to talk about the whole incident for the first and last time. Now, just before that interview, Justin Timberlake had made a statement and he said, if you consider it 50-50, then I probably got 10% of the blame. I think America is harsher on women. I think America is unfairly harsh on ethnic people. Very true. So, he seemed to somewhat get it. So then Janet Jackson is on Oprah and she said...
Was it planned, Janet?
No.
It was not planned?
Well, what people don't understand is he was to take and rip the piece off that he did.
The leather piece.
Right, but more came off than what was supposed to.
So he was supposed to pull that off and we just see the red there. And he ripped the whole thing.
Yes.
So he had you practiced or whatever before?
Yes, we did.
And so the moment that happened, you immediately covered your breast because you didn't want to be exposed. If you'd wanted to be exposed, you wouldn't have covered it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Very embarrassing moment.
It was a very embarrassing moment.
Yes.
Well, 24 hours after that Super Bowl, Janet issued an apology. And I had read in another magazine that you regret making that apology. Is that true? Why?
It was an accident. And management that I had at the time, they thought it was important that I did, you know, with the project coming out. And I had said, actually, before I sat down to record the apology, that I had said to them,
what are you apologizing for?
Yeah, why am I apologizing for an accident?
Well, you did say in the apology you apologized for anybody who might have been offended by it.
Right, and they wanted me to say that, so I did. They thought it was best that I do, so I did.
Do you think in any way that Justin Timberlake left you hanging out there? I am speaking to Miss Jackson. Do you?
Well, all the emphasis was put on me, not on Justin. And Justin, we were friends. And
Okay, look, people who are cancelling Justin Timberlake at this point. So you've never performed at the Super Bowl alongside Janet Jackson, ripped off her shirt, exposed a star
And then
sticker
abandoned her.
on a nipple, and then had your career skyrocket while hers falls into a ditch. Never. That's never happened to you.
No, I don't think that's happened to...
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's happened to people. I think that's why they're mad.
So, got it.
People got real mad about that. And every year at the Super Bowl, people bring it up. And then Justin Timberlake actually got invited back and he performed in 2018. And everyone was like, moment for Janet.
I remember that. Everyone was really mad.
Like, yeah.
It also gets to the point, you know, in like police shows like Line of Duty, where you look at someone and you go, are they guilty or are they just unlucky?
Yeah.
Is Justin Timberlake just an unlucky man, a bit clumsy? He walks through life knocking over Britney Spears, Janet Jackson, and so on. Is he a bad man or is he an unlucky man?
Is he a white man?
Or is
Is he just a white man? So that brings me to Framing Britney Spears comes out. And this is why people have ammunition, because it's like, it's not just Britney. You did this to Janet as well. So an article in Huffington Post in February this year started with this paragraph, and I just think it perfectly sums it up. If Twitter users could write a math thesis for the recent swell of loathing towards Justin Timberlake, it would probably go like this. Dude has had it too good for too long, and it's time for him to own up to humiliating Britney Spears and scapegoating Janet Jackson.
Oof.
That's how everyone feels. So some of the tweets about him said things like, can we just talk about the fact Justin Timberlake bragged about taking Britney Spears' virginity and sold stories to magazines and was applauded.
It was a product of the time, though, and he was a young man and he was caught in the middle, and I completely understand how he was a little bit trapped. Wasn't he stuck by the same mechanisms that poor Britney was?
Maybe, but I don't think this person thinks that because they said Justin Timberlake is a trash human being and should immediately be cancelled.
Articles got written about all the reasons why Justin Timberlake should be cancelled. Do you remember these, Claire?
Yeah, 20 times Justin Timberlake was problematic but wasn't called out on it.
They started really scraping the bottom of the barrel by the end, because
really
20's a lot, right? It's like Britney, number 1, Janet, number 2,
Number 3, he released a single called Take Back the Night, which is also the name of an anti-rape organisation.
And it's like, I think that was a horrible coincidence.
A horrible coincidence that it's like, do you think that he's not anti-rape? Is that?
I think that's what people think.
I think that's a suggestion.
And then it was like number 17 was like, he was asked about Britney and he answered. And it's like, stop. And I'm like,
And then wasn't there an apology that he delivered about Britney in the wake of framing Britney Spears?
So basically, he gets all of those tweets, you're trash, you're cancelled, everybody hates you, not just Britney, also Janet, you suck. And so he wrote this. I've seen the messages, tags, comments and concerns and I want to respond. I'm deeply sorry for the times in my life when my actions contributed to the problem, where I spoke out of turn and did not speak up for what was right. I understand that I fell short in these moments and in many others and benefited from a system that condones misogyny and racism. Freaking amen. I specifically want to apologise to Britney Spears and Janet Jackson both individually because I care for and respect these women and I know that I failed. I also feel compelled to respond in part because everyone involved deserves better and most importantly because this is a larger conversation I wholeheartedly want to be part of and grow from. This industry is flawed. It sets men, especially white men, up for success.
Which confirms our suspicions
that he's just a
that
white
he's
man.
not a bad man, he's just a white man.
It's designed this way. As a man in a privileged position, I have to be vocal about this because of my ignorance. I didn't recognise it for all it was, but I don't want to ever benefit from others being pulled down again.
And so it goes on.
And so it goes on. It's a pretty good apology. What
were the criticisms?
So, one person said almost 20 years later, and that's the best Justin Timberlake can come up with.
Okay, it's
like,
not like he spent the last 20 years exactly writing this apology. Like he had
That's
kids,
what I
he
thought.
slept, and other such
exercised.
things.
But people also said, I'm not going to forgive him anytime soon, especially because he's only apologising because of all the pressure that's been put on him. I would have respected him a lot more if he had come forward of his own accord.
I remember people accusing him of being performative, and it's like, isn't every apology performative? Especially when it's the notes app on your phone but screenshot and shared to your 20 million followers. Like,
And
that's
don't-
performative.
Don't most of us only realise we've done the wrong thing when we get called out?
Yeah,
I
when
don't
someone
know.
catches you.
But the reason people were really mad was because everybody was like, how about Kylie?
What?
And I'm like, what? What about Kylie?
www.google.com. Kylie Minogue doesn't do
What
it.
about Kylie? So here's what happened. 2003 Brit Awards. And he is performing with Kylie, this Blondie song. It went for like 30 seconds. It was the
We're
weirdest
going
performance.
back. We're
going
18
back.
years.
And she looks great.
She's always looks
she's,
great.
But this particular performance, I'm like, oh, she's beautiful. So she's dancing, she's grinding. I'd almost say it's a twerk.
She's doing an early twerk.
Yeah. And he puts his hands on her butt cheeks.
During
As-
the performance?
Yes.
Consensually?
Well, a few days later, they're at the Grammys. And they're presenting an award together and he asks if he could grab her ass again. He's like, can I grab your ass again? And she says, no. But it's clearly a joke that's referencing the performance they did a few days earlier.
Okay.
But I think people have misunderstood the order and they're like, he asked her if he could grab her bum and she said no and then he did it anyway. And I'm like, no, that's not the
internet
chronology.
does
However,
tend to jump to conclusions.
there are people on Twitter who say, I don't know how they heard it, but I heard he asked Kylie and she said no.
Okay.
But they do seem to be friends. Not that that means that it didn't happen, but just I do feel like it's in the context of a performance but I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he did a grope.
The internet loves to just throw out, how about Kylie?
Yeah.
Full stop.
Oh.
And throw us down a rabbit hole that doesn't have a conclusion.
Yeah, it doesn't have a conclusion. Like, I don't know. So then, also to put in files if I don't know, there's part the fourth, which is cheating on his wife. Which is a very sensationalist way for me to start this segment. So, in late 2019, he is filming a movie called Palmer in New Orleans. Or New Orleans.
Depending on if you're American or not, which we're not.
But if we were, we'd say Orleans. So, just a reminder, he's married to Jessica Biel.
The eldest seventh heaven
Daughter. Yes. She's also one of the most stunning. God, she's gorgeous. That's not relevant.
No.
But he is married to her and they have 2 children. And
I wonder what the pastor thinks of that.
Remember Seventh Heaven? I'm pretty sure. Well, don't get us started on the pastor because he's cancelled. Anyway, so he's married to Jessica Biel, and she's being her great talented, starring in The Sinner self. She also wrote that or produced it or whatever. She's just having a great career, and he's in New Orleans, and he is photographed holding hands with his co-star, Alicia Wainwright. He's filmed holding hands with her, and she's got her hand on his thigh. Okay. The hand holding, I don't see a lot of ambiguity in hand holding. What do you think?
I'm not holding
Method
anyone's
acting?
hands.
Method acting?
No,
You're
cheating.
at a club?
Cheating, yeah.
And so he's like, I was very drunk, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he releases this public apology.
Via Notes app?
Via Notes app. So this was his first apology on Notes app. So he said, a few weeks ago, I displayed a strong lapse in judgment. Let me be clear, nothing happened between me and my co-star. He held hands, so not nothing. I drank way too much. Oh, okay. That night and regret my behaviour. I should have known better. He then continued, this is not the example I want to set for my son. I apologise to my amazing wife and family, blah, blah, blah. I'm focused on being the best husband and father I can be. This was not that. I don't really understand the last bit. I guess he's like, wasn't cheating.
No, I think he's saying I wasn't being a good father and husband.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's true.
So he has had a lot of practice in the Apology Olympics.
Yeah.
Because he has had to apologise for a lot. I think that's a fine apology. And I assume that he had the discussion with Jessica Biel privately where he said, I'm sorry that I cheated on you in front of the camera.
Yeah, it wasn't very nice.
But they broke up, didn't they?
No, they're still together.
Oh.
Yeah, they're still together. So I guess part 4.B/III,
yes,
that I'm not going to fully get into is just throughout all of this, I just want you to look at this like it's a pizza.
Yeah.
So there are 4 big parts of the pizza. I'd say Britney's probably a significant bit of it.
Yeah.
And maybe Kylie Minogue is just a little slice.
Yeah, I'll only have a little bit.
On the pizza, I want you to sprinkle cultural appropriation.
Okay.
Like it's cheese.
It's cheese and it's being sprinkled, but it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And it's cornrows in the early 2000s. It's music that
It's R&B.
It's R&B. It's music that wasn't really kind of for white people, that he made his own. And then
he has always tried. For someone who said that Britney was trying to be Madonna, Sir over here has tried to be Michael Jackson.
I know.
The day he opened his mouth.
Or Usher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just think, there's so just take that.
I mean, we could do a whole episode on that,
Salt,
but we won't.
Just a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Sprinkle it on your pizza.
What's the verdict?
Is the verdict in yet?
Yeah, what's the verdict?
Jesse, you've seen the evidence. You've heard from the witnesses. You haven't heard from the witnesses, but I've told you what I know about the witnesses. Yeah. In any courtroom, what we need to do is we need to charge him with these individual charges separately. We need to really divide up what is he potentially guilty of. We're not going to consult a jury.
There is none.
We have no budget.
We don't have the resources.
No, we don't. And then we're going to hand down our verdicts, which have no real world consequences. So I'm going to ask you, what do you charge Justin Randall Timberlake with, and what's he sentencing?
This case hinges on one ultimate question, which is he bad or is he a white man?
I know.
And it's unclear. But what I have decided is that he's a white man. And
he's a straight white man.
He's a straight white man. And who in this courtroom could disagree?
Not me.
You can't. His crimes were being young, followed by being ignorant and exploiting at times Britney Spears. Then it came to Janet Jackson, and honestly, he didn't stand up for her enough. And then it got to Kylie. Honestly, you lost me there. So I'm going to leave the charges there with Kylie.
Look, the question is always beyond a reasonable doubt. And
beyond a reasonable doubt, he's a straight white man. I've said that all along.
Exactly.
So he's guilty of that. But most importantly, my sentencing. Mm-hmm. I sentence Justin Randall Timberlake to 2.5 bad albums. They're going to be badly written, badly executed, and they're going to sell badly.
Okay.
Right? They're not even going to get onto the Spotify playlists that you want to get on. It's going to really kind of affect his stardom. I then want Britney to make a lol on Instagram about it.
Okay.
Right? Exploit his loss. Then I want Janet Jackson to resurrect with a great album, of which she references Super Bowl.
Oh.
Right? The album cover, it's a bare nipple. It's a song. It's like when you have a bad night. Something like
when
that.
you have a bad night, it's just that. And you get cancelled for showing your nipple and
Justin
so on.
Timberlake keeps on rising because he's the white man.
We'll write that for Janet. Yeah. Once Justin Timberlake's 2.5 bad albums have been released to the public, have properly tanked, he is free to go and continue being a white man in the world today.
Okay. Right.
Claire, what do you charge Justin Randall Timberlake of and what is he sentencing?
It's pretty serious.
Oh.
All right? It's pretty serious. Because number one, I'm charging him with noodle hair. Because he had that really
offensively
hectic noodle
curly
hair when he was in NSYNC and
Yeah.
he was like all wrapped up into
We
noodles.
didn't even cover that.
But the thing about the
you
noodle
can't
hair...
bring new evidence into your conclusion.
I can. It was submitted to the court. You just didn't see it.
Okay.
The thing is, though, about the noodle hair, it's interesting because his offence there is his punishment.
Okay.
His offence with the noodle hair, he's punished with having noodle hair and those photos being around forever.
Okay.
All right? Now, secondly, my charge that is a little bit more serious is around, there is one specific Barbara Walters interview where I'm charging him in that particular interview of seeming to be the kind of guy who breaks up with you and calls you crazy.
A bad ex-boyfriend.
A bad ex-boyfriend.
Okay, so he's a bad ex-boyfriend. What does one sentence a bad ex-boyfriend to?
I think you sentence a bad ex-boyfriend to a bad experience themselves. And you know what? I do think that photograph in New Orleans, that might have been his punishment.
So you don't want Jessica Biel to leave him?
Look,
She's the mother of his
if
children.
I'm speaking personally, yes. Oh, that'd be a great story for the site.
Oh, that's horrible.
But-
These are human beings.
I know. But no, so I do think that part of his punishment there was those photos being released. The conversation he then had to have with Jessica, that was also his punishment.
Okay. So he's a man, in your opinion, on even playing field now? He's good to go?
Yeah, I'd say he's good to go. I'd also say he does deserve just what he deserves is this. Every time he posts something, having to closely moderate because you never know when it's going to pop up.
Exactly
when
it.
it's going to just Janet, Kylie, Britney, and he's going to
Close
have
moderation. Can you think of a more painful punishment? I don't think
It's
so.
actually, it should be in China. You know how they have like torture?
Torture?
It should be that, is that every time you put anything out there,
Close comment moderation.
something's going to hit you and you don't
You've
know
actually
where
got to
it's-
employ an assistant.
Yes.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of Cancelled. If you enjoyed it, please go and tell your friends or leave us a lovely review in your favourite podcast app. We will be back next week with a whole new cancelled celebrity and, as always, a very helpful and definitive verdict.
We also want people to tell us the celebrities that they want us to discuss.
Oh, please do.
We've
Send an email to podcast@mamamia.com.au. Tell us who you'd like us to chat about.
and also you can share your own charges.
Oh,
We'll consider
great
them.
idea.
Yes.
Love that. I'm Jessie Stephens, and you can hear more of me on Mamamia Out Loud and True Crime Conversations.
I'm Claire Stephens, and you can read my writing on mamamia.com.au.
Cancelled is produced by Elissa Ratliff, and I'm Jessie, you're Claire, we will see you on the Mamamia app.
Bye.
Bye.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.